Sponsored by ExpressVPN. Click the link before a hacker steals the rest of this advertising.
Everything's fine, cause the merch in the store is hot, it's burning, it's trending, I'm buying. Everything's fine, cause the merch in the store. I miss that outside where somebody can save me. What's he gonna do with all that stuff? You can wear it or burn it or give it to your dog. Everything is fine, cause the merch in the store is hot, it's burning, it's trending, I'm buying.
Welcome back, and gather round because the story I have today is one of lies and betrayal by one of YouTube's oldest channels. You see, I don't know how old some of you are that watch these videos, but the channel we're talking about today is a relic if I've ever seen one. I am of course talking about GameXplain. GameXplain was founded back in 2009. And pinch me if I don't shed a tear for that late 2000s, early 2010s era of YouTube. I mean, what can I say? I'm old enough to remember crazy stick figure randomness. Yeah, it was a different time. It was the era when Smosh and Ray William Johnson dominated the YouTube scene. And on that same stage stood GameXplain, a modest channel centered around variety gaming content. GameXplain has amassed over 1 million subscribers, but you wouldn't have known that a few days ago, because they had their sub count turned off. Why do they need to do that? What's the tea? Well, that's what the Hotbox is here for, baby. So buckle in, because here we go. Friendly reminder that if you're new to the channel, why not subscribe? It's quick, it's free, just takes a second, and you can always undo it, but I really do appreciate it, so thank you. So what is GameXplain? Well, GameXplain defined themselves as, quote, your one-stop shop for everything Nintendo, including in-depth reviews, secrets, discussions, trailer analyses, and tons more. Whether it's the next Mario, Zelda, or Pokemon game, or even the latest Mario iPhone and Android titles, we've got you covered. And as you can see, they've amassed over 8 billion, that's B, billion, views across all of their content. But if you go to the comments to even their latest video at the time, the comments and the ratio tell an interesting story, with an overwhelmingly negative like to dislike ratio mixed with comments like, Triss, blink twice if you need help. 4 videos in less than 24 hours? Looks like someone has enough to get a Wendy's 4 for $4. Did Triss get $1 for this? And so on and so forth, the same kind of thing. So you might be wondering, why are people upset? What did GameXplain do behind the scenes? Well, this all started with a clip from something called Good Vibes Gaming. And I've got to take you back in the time machine again. You see, at the tail end of 2020, Good Vibes Gaming was formed by 3 former GameXplain employees, them being Derek Bittner, Ash Paulson, and Steve Bowling. They all left the same week of November 2020, which already seems a little suspicious at first, right? What happened inside GameXplain? Well, it all came out when a certain podcast clip got some attention.
So the review embargo for Final Fantasy VII Remake was April 6th. We got the game on April 4th. Right. And so it was originally our intention to have Derek review it. It was just like, hey, you know, this is definitely going to be Derek's game. And I mean, they just didn't give us time. And I don't know if it was lunacy or what it was, but I was like, yeah, I guess I could do it. I could probably beat the game in that amount of time. And I did not sleep. I powered through this whole game in 2 days, basically. And I mean, I don't think I've ever suffered more to make a video than I did for this game. I mean, I sent Derek my draft of the review. I was delirious.
I needed to basically rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I had a jumble of thoughts, but I mean, I literally, thinking back on it right now, I can feel my eyes burning, like just the incredible pain I was in to just get it done. And I remember, like, my wife, God bless her, she was like, I love you. I'm glad this is over. Go take a shower and leave GameXplain as soon as you can. Like, I will be the first to admit that this is where she just turned on GameXplain. She was like, you need to get out of there.
And once this clip started doing the rounds and getting trending, and this horror story came to more light, there was a post made on the GameXplain subreddit titled, Ash, Derek, and Steve have finally commented on why they left GameXplain and its horrible working conditions that they had to face. In part, it reads, so the GVG crew consisting of Ash, Steve, and Derek have finally given a full confirmation on why they left the channel, and it turns out it was due to similar things shared earlier when they made Good Vibes Gaming. There was just too much work and pressure to put out news updates and reviews. However, it wasn't until yesterday that we finally got a full idea on how bad of working conditions that they had to deal with. He overviews Steve's comment about saying that reviewing Final Fantasy VII was a nightmare. He didn't sleep during the crunch. Also, other competitors didn't steal GameXplain's views. Crunch culture is so incredibly toxic. You see it happening with things like CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk. And it's just so disappointing. It doesn't benefit anyone, really. You feel bad because you push someone to an edge, and the person feels bad because they might create something that they feel is subpar and doesn't represent them the best. The post goes on to say, there may be truth that they may have left on good terms though. Andre may be attacked for his work conditions since he is the boss and responsible for this. I think I've stated my opinion during this, but to summarize it, it's unfortunate and I don't like it. I just hope the same won't repeat itself for the new folks, but since nothing has changed with the format, I only fear the worst." End quote. Steve's wife even made a comment about it. She says, if Steve was treated like a person instead of a machine and paid fairly for the amount of work he was expected to put out, I would have fully supported him staying on at GX. However, for what worked out to be around $1 to $2 an hour between playing through games, writing and producing videos, maintaining and growing relationships with developers, working to get code for games, etc., I would have been a terrible partner not to encourage him to find a way to continue doing what he loves in a healthy way. As for being work-phobic, he also maintains, and has since before GX, a corporate 9-to-5 career, while also helping to raise 4 children. Trust me, he's extremely hardworking. Amen to that, sister. However, this friendly and informative post found itself deleted, and the GameXplain subreddit got locked. Following its unlocking, a post was made by Nintendo Gamer 1997 stating, GameXplain is back. The contents of the post read, yesterday, user GameXplain, a former moderator of this subreddit, set the sub to private without warning. I was unaware that this happened until I received mod mail messages from confused users. I would like to thank the users who brought this to my attention. He also removed posts about former members of GameXplain and Good Vibes Gaming without giving any reason. I've went back and approved these posts. Discussion about GVG and former members of GameXplain is allowed. I will try to always give a reason for removing posts in the future. I never expected GameXplain to abuse his power, which is why he is no longer a moderator of this subreddit. I am so sorry that this happened." End quote. And it leads you to wonder, who is GameXplain? Even someone in the comments asks that. They posit that it might be Andre. Well, who's Andre? And if you've loved it so far, you're gonna love this. Andre, user GameXplain, is the founder of GameXplain himself, Andre Seegers. At least Andre is the main suspect. So yes, riddle me this. What's a founder doing potentially abusing their power to censor bad stories about the internal workings of their company? Gee, I wonder what they could get out of that. I wonder, Andre. It is an unfortunately all too common case of the employees suffering horrible conditions while the boss sits back and counts buku bucks and tries to keep all the bad news silent. And it's disgusting. 2021 is going to show us that it's not only small individual YouTubers that can be exposed for trash behavior. It's a reminder that toxic behavior extends and spreads everywhere, all the way up to the top. But anyone who's worked a minimum wage job would know that one. Nothing revolutionary there. Well, following a public outcry on Twitter, Steve finally stepped forward with a statement. Steve says, "Alright y'all, I've been trying to keep my distance from this, but I see a lot of questions that I feel deserve some context, and I don't want to remain silent when I feel the community deserves answers. Everything I'm going to say is rooted in fact. I won't be offering my opinions of GameXplain or of Andre, just things I know of to be true, because they happened to me." In the opening language of this sentence, you can already see a little bit of a struggle. It's the idea of wanting to criticize the way a place is run without bringing unfair consequences down on the colleagues that you used to know. Because, in any hierarchy, it's so easy for criticism of the top to trickle down into mistreatment of workers on lower levels, and it sucks. But you do have to speak out when something's wrong, no matter what. Steve goes on to say, I joined GameXplain in December of 2018. Andre started paying me for my work in September of 2019. Wait, does that mean Homeboy had a whole year of no pay? From GameXplain? I'm sorry, what? I see how it's gonna be. Give me more. Steve says, we discussed a fee of $550. I had no idea if my videos were even worth the amount I had asked for, and I didn't know what anybody else at the channel was paid at the time. By the way, if you're wondering where people are getting the $1 to $2 an hour figure, people are taking $550, dividing it across a 30-day period of a month, which gives you about $18 a day, going into an average 8-hour workday. That equates to around $1 to $2 an hour. Otherwise known as destitute. And we love to see workers being robbed, right? No, we don't love to see it. That's why they hide it. Steve goes on to say, that $550 was a flat fee per month, not per video, and without any additional performance-based incentives. That means if I did a couple of news updates or discussions, I got that $550. Conversely, it also means that if I was reviewing The Last of Us 2 while playing through Paper Mario and participating in Game Club, I still got just $550. Every month, I also maintained GX's email server and worked with publishers and developers to secure review copies for the entire team. If I brought in a sponsorship deal, meaning I negotiated the deal, wrote, recorded, edited, and posted the video, I would receive 33% of the proceeds, with the remaining 67% going to the channel, but those were few and far between. I didn't consider what my hourly rate was until my wife showed me the math. She was right. After Derek left, Andre offered me a full-time position for $50K annually with 25% of sponsorships I brought in being offered. This was far lower than Andre was aware I was making at my full-time job at the time, and I couldn't accept it while supporting my family. I had concerns after seeing an employment contract offered to someone else. There were clauses contained therein that would have brought a negative impact to my career. We're not asking people to unfollow GX, and we definitely don't want to undermine the work the new staff there has done and continues to do. They deserve the same consideration and love that you've all shown us over the years, and all of us unanimously agreed that we don't want this to undermine or reflect negatively on their efforts. Regardless of your own opinion of Andre or GX, I'd like to ask that nobody engage in harassment of any kind. This isn't what GVG is about, and we don't condone that type of behavior, period. I hope this sheds some light on my experience with GX. I appreciate all the messages of support I've received over the past 24 hours. I hope I've answered your questions. A head-spinning set of allegations to be sure. A very positive closing and all-around very well-made statement. They're to the point, they describe everything that happened, while also following it up with a degree of, civil behavior. It's a reminder to people to not blindly hate. This isn't a witch hunt. This is just criticism. Criticism of how an industry or a particular part of the industry is being run and the negative effects it's having on the people who are just trying to make an honest living, doing what they love. And that's what everyone deserves the right to. At least in my opinion. The idea that, again, if this is true, but frankly I don't get any bad vibes off of this statement, but again, the idea that if this is true that Andre would think that this kind of crunch culture is okay is unacceptable. Crunching makes it so easy for people to be taken advantage of. That's not to mention, especially in the current world situation. Everyone is feeling the impacts. And everyone is desperate for some kind of work or some kind of money. Companies take advantage of that desperation. They use it to underpay and turn people into tools for them. Everyone deserves to be upset over this. I can more than guarantee you that what Andre is making would make you roll over in your grave. Again, this is a billion-plus view channel. I cannot begin to fathom the kind of revenue that has made over the years on YouTube. And the idea that it's not being redistributed to the people who are earnestly and in good faith creating this content, it's disgusting. Well, the plot thickens because Ash also stepped out and made a statement as well, making a statement on Derek's behalf. So let's dig into that, shall we? Ash says, "Hi everyone, Derek has prepared a statement regarding this situation, but he doesn't have an Era account, so I'm posting it on his behalf. I am also preparing my own statement, which I will post later, but for now, all I'll say is that I fully back everything Steve and now Derek have said about the situation. It's all true. That said, I would like to echo Derek and Steve's reminders that it has never been our intention to have Good Vibes Gaming compete with or undermine GX. The new crew of Joey, Triss, and Chris, as well as my good friend Tom, who remains at GX, deserve the same love and consideration you all have graciously shown us over the years, and we are not asking you to unsubscribe from GX or to pull support from their Patreon. We'd also like to remind you that while we understand your desire for Andre to make a statement, we strongly ask that you don't harass him. We appreciate your sympathy and support, but we categorically do not want to turn this into a witch hunt. Yeah guys, don't go bullying Andre. That's my job. I kid, but you would think that Andre could say a few words instead of being radio silent and just posting memes.
Oops!
And now Derek's statement. Derek says these are just some of my experiences. First, none of us knew how much each other was making. All I knew was that I was making the most of all the employees, as I had been there the longest. Each year, I would get a raise until I topped out at $5K a month in 2018. Despite asking for my yearly raise, Andre said that the channel couldn't afford it, as by that point, John had been brought on. I didn't mind though, as having John on the team was a lifesaver. He was able to do updates and keep an eye on the channel, lightening my daily workload significantly. I felt expected to be on call at all times, and would be nervous to even leave my home most days, fearing that some random Nintendo news would come out. This didn't really go away until John joined, and Amy pushed me to take time for myself. Rarely did Andre handle an update, and when it was just him, he would wait until either John or myself was free to actually handle it. Yikes! Andre, come on now, if your employees can churn them out like it's butter, I would assume you had the sense to do it too, come on. We can all row the boat a little bit, we can all pull some taffy, you feel me? I think that's something that annoys a lot of people in the workplace. People that just idle or drag out one task until someone else comes and then, oops, your task now. You just hate to see that. And you hate to think of it happening inside of a company with the size and influence that GameXplain has. The statement goes on to say, it always had to be done ASAP. As for GameXplain's income, I was able to see the analytics for quite some time, and the estimation is mostly on point, though there are some months when it would dip below that estimation. But the high end always felt massive, and I hope that the rest of the team, especially John, was being compensated with that extra income. That said, I had to handle any work expenses myself for the most part, including consoles and equipment. The only part of my current setup provided by Andre is my mic. I paid for my flights to LA for E3 or trains to NY for Nintendo events, while Andre would handle the cost of hotels if needed and meals if we were together. Oof! Yeah, if anyone, much less myself, was being treated like this by Andre, I can absolutely understand how you would start to have your suspicions about where all those extra zeros on the ad revenue analytics really end up. Whose pockets are they going to? Derek says, I never said anything, as the expenses could be used as write-offs for my taxes and helped at the end of the year. However, this year felt different as the team started talking more. I discovered that John was making less than half of what I did, despite doing the same amount of work. Steve's income has already been brought up, and Ash stepped back from the channel for only occasional work. He would send invoices that Andre would eventually get to, but Andre always had to be reminded to send our paychecks out. Oh, big red flag right there. They go on to say, we tried to get a calendar started so he could be more consistent, but he resisted the idea.
Jesus! It is one red flag after the other.
Andre, you've heard of running a company like a ship, right? You know, ship shape. And perhaps you've heard of a sinking ship? Yeah, I'm here to tell you, this is a sunk ship. No wonder people started swimming. Derek says, one other thing to know is that despite a Discord where we all chatted and coordinated, Andre would often DM each of us to ask specific things. Ostensibly, it was so that we could see them better, but it often felt like a way to strong-arm for videos he wanted. That feels like a huge manipulation tactic. Instead of saying something in a public sphere, sneaking it to someone, you know, almost whispering it to them in a way. It makes the whole context of the situation shadowy, no matter what it is. Derek says, there were many times when he wanted an update on something that I didn't feel was worth the time, as I was working on other things, but he would push until I relented. Sometimes he gave up, but that was rare. It got to a point where I would ignore it or put off looking at his DMs if I was busy with something, or be more combative over the updates he wanted to put out. Andre was extremely controlling, seemingly timing things to directly disrupt plans. He gave John tons of work when his YouTube channel took off, making it difficult for him to make videos there. He also asked me to stop streaming to YouTube, as he didn't like old game playthroughs mixed in with our current event style. What? As a side note, any money I earned from Super Chat had to be totaled by me and invoiced at the end of the year as a bonus.
Are you kidding?
Are you kidding me? Yeah, newsflash to you listeners, because he didn't like to see Pokemon Coliseum gameplay. He probably didn't like that because it was giving Derek roots. It was giving him a way to grow outside of his little GameXplain sphere. And if that happened and he became too powerful, Andre couldn't keep a leash on him with pressure. But hey, that's just a theory. Derek says, so leaving to Twitch served as a chance to earn money more immediately, especially with a baby on the way and Amy still unable to work on her own projects due to the effects of the current world situation. I prepared people for the move for a while as I completed the final playthrough, but on the day of the final stream, Andre contacted me and asked that I stream to GameXplain's Twitch instead. His reason was that he wouldn't be able to make me properly full-time if I streamed to my own Twitch, something he had been building toward through most of the year. Alright, raise the BS alarm, set him off, because I'm gonna tell you something right here. That sounds like a confirmation to my theory. Andre doing everything he can to stifle employees' influence outside of the company, because the more outside eyes there are, the more scrutiny is on Andre. Derek says, if I streamed to my own Twitch, I would be considered a freelancer and immediately have my pay removed with rates estimated at $15 to $20 per update and $100 to $150 per feature or review. He said I could have full control of the GameXplain Twitch though, so I felt strong-armed into taking the deal. I still got the money from subs and bits monthly, but I had to go through him. It also felt like he dragged his feet to confirm affiliate status, because he thought me streaming would somehow turn people away from the new Game Club tier on the Patreon. Around September, he asked me to join a voice call where he wanted to discuss GameXplain going forward. I popped in at the appointed time, and he asked to be on camera. It turns out, he had prepared a PowerPoint where he ran down several things. How the world situation had affected ad rates and lowered income, how he was still paying me despite this, how I was fighting him when updates had to be done, and ultimately how I was bringing in less money for the channel than what I was being paid. Are you kidding me? My man's cross-promoting you, and you make a whole presentation that you give to him live on camera just to shame him? Who do you think you are, Andre? In what world is that okay and formal? That's overkill. If you got a problem with someone, you speak up about it, but you also listen to the things that they say back to you, because that's how you have a conversation. Wow. The statement goes on to say, it ended with a question of whether I was still loyal and still wanted an official full-time position. Again, with a baby on the way, I was scared to the point of meekness because I felt I couldn't put Amy and the baby in that position. And again, Andre, knowing this, more than likely, took advantage of that pressure. Utterly repulsive. Ash says, when Andre finally presented me with a full-time contract, I was in the middle of a nightmare moving situation where I could barely focus on anything. He pushed the fact that I had to make a decision as soon as possible due to timing, but I couldn't change my income situation without messing up my loan application. Ultimately, he gave me the time I needed and talked to the loan officers as my boss to help me get my loan. But in the intervening time, I was able to take a closer look at the contract. There go the rose-tinted glasses. There were no defined set hours, no increase in pay, no overtime, no health coverage, not enough full-time employees. And overtime would only translate to extra time off, not extra pay. Oh, wonderful, not even paid time off. Andre, it sounds like you're giving them a fork when they need a hammer. You feel me, dog? They need benefits, they need things for their family. Days off would be nice if they could still make money. Otherwise, you're just giving them a get-out-of-jail-free card to go and lose money. Or at least that's the way your culture makes it seem. And that's not good. In addition, he wanted to approve where I appeared and when I streamed, taking away the one bit of control I had with the Twitch. It felt like I had no say in my life. Everything had to go through Andre if I wanted to earn money beyond GameXplain. But worst of all was an NDA included with the contract. Tucked in the many points listed was a non-compete clause. Basically, if I signed the contract and left or was fired from GameXplain for any reason, I would not be able to work in the same space for a year. I took this to mean no YouTube, no games media, nothing. And if you needed confirmation that Andre was trying to put a lock on Derek's whole life, hook, line, and sinker. For those of you that don't know what an NDA is, it stands for Non-Disclosure Agreement. Basically, it's what a company gives you when they make your life a living hell and don't want to see a tweet about it later. A no-compete clause is similar, and Derek goes on to explain that. Basically, Andre wanted to lock him out of ever having a chance, and if it got too much for him and he left, Andre wanted to make sure he didn't hear any annoying posts about his bad boy behavior. Yeah, how's that working out for you, Andre? Where does the line blur in this position of power? I just want to know. When and how does it happen that these people in positions of power go from seeing people to seeing property? I talked to a lot of people around this time, trying to figure out what to do. After speaking with all of them, including Amy, Ash, Steve, and John, I ultimately decided to leave with Ash and Steve coming with me so we could pursue Ash's idea of Good Vibes Gaming. It felt better to leave and attempt my own things rather than deal with that contract and the general stress and pressure of GameXplain. Money is tight, but I am so much happier now. And that brings us up to now. I have yet to find any other statement from Ash, but in the instance that they do, I definitely recommend that you go check out everyone's social feeds and keep an eye on the situation, because right now it's radio silence from Andre's side, except for giving some guy permission to use his meme. Like, okay. Yeah, my company might be crumbling from the inside, but meme theft? I take that seriously. Give me a fucking break. Andre, if this should all be true, and I am again inclined to believe it, let me be the first to say that you are delusional. There is no one beneath you, because it is hard to fall beneath rock bottom. Other than hell, but hey, I'll race you there. And take this as an opportunity to reevaluate how you look at people. Remember, these are bodies with souls, feelings, people who love them, a consciousness, for God's sake. And right now, more than ever, they need all the help they can get. And you are one of the people that can do that for them. I implore you to make some decisions. And I thank you, the viewer, for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you heard, why not leave a like and share the video around, spread the word, and subscribe to stay tuned for more coverage. Whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a good rest of your day and an even better tomorrow. I love you, and before you say it back, look in the mirror and say it to yourself. I will see you in the next episode of whatever I make. And until then, this has been the Hotbox. Bye! Mwah.
Leave my